So one day at 3 in the morning, I got back into a fandom that I wasn't in for a long time. I had gotten into it when I was a kid and kind of regret it. I was like 9. It was Ronpa. 9-year-olds should not be into that. That February I started Ronpa and Friends, and I'm still here. It's been 2 years, and I'm somehow still sober. I put out a Q&A on Instagram and let you guys ask me questions, so let's see what you guys came up with.
What motivated you to make a fangin with Disney characters of all things? Is it nostalgia?
While I wear the label of Disney adult with a burning hatred, I actually didn't get that title due to nostalgia. Ironically, I didn't become a Disney fan until I was an adult. I was actually raised on Looney Tunes and Betty Boop. To summarize it nicely, my parents didn't really like Disney. They didn't hate it, and I watched tons of Pixar, but my mama and papa felt like Mickey Mouse's voice was grating and disliked his cartoons, specifically the things coming out when I was a kid, which was the early 2000s. I fell in love with Disney through the film Mickey, Donald, and Goofy, The Three Musketeers, and that movie still serves as Rompin' Friends' biggest inspiration. After that movie, it was The Three Caballeros, and from there I fell down a rabbit hole of obsession. At least I don't collect these fucking things. When I first decided I was going to make a fan game, I tiptoed on a lot of different things. The first being an actual OC-based fan game set in the Danganronpa universe called Hope Rewind. I had characters, death orders, and executions planned, and then I got bored and didn't do anything with them. Maybe I'll come back to them, but with drastic changes made to the story. After that, I touched on a ton of other ideas, specifically a DC Universe-based Ronpa with Superman as the protagonist. This shifted into a DC Superhero Girls Ronpa, which died when I realized, hey, this show is bad. I had also scripted out a Ronpa with my sister who knows nothing about Danganronpa, and incidentally the fan game was for Homestuck, which I know nothing about and have been framed as a fan of. Admittedly, the Halloween event was my own fault. After that, I decided to sit down with myself and just ask what could I write for hours upon end, and came up with Disney. At this point, I had just played Epic Mickey, and that had opened up the idea that maybe Mickey Mouse could be more than he's presented as.
How do you avoid burnout?
I only kinda know. I ran Ronpa and Friends for its full run without ever really getting burnt out, and when it did finally hit me, I made Ronpa and Friends 2, and then had to take a bigger break because I didn't give myself, a long enough break to begin with. The best answer I can come up with is that Ronpa and Friends is made up of my practice. These are all pretty much warm-up drawings and experimental styles and colors, character studies, and messing with tools. After I make something for Ronpa and Friends, I then go do what I was actually going to draw that day, which is normally a commission. My Ronpa and Friends 2 burnout was really just a whirlwind of a lot of things, but mostly that I decided to put my own enjoyment of it over just getting it done. You have to enjoy what you're making, forcing yourself will just lead to an art block or burnout. That's my moral of the story for today.
What inspired the designs of Morgana and Hortensia?
I wanted to give all the intermission characters some new designs from, compared to the Killing Game participants, to emphasize that the Wasteland is a lot different than what everything else is cracked up to be. Morgana's Ronpa and Friends design is based on a duck species called cinnamon teals, which I thought looked really cool and would make for a good witch-like design. Otherwise, her dress and her hair isn't super different from her canonical design. It's the cinnamon teal duck inspo that changed her. As for Hortensia, I wanted to make her look cool, and I'm a huge sucker for big cape things that serve no purpose.
Did you plan any alternative deaths in Season 1?
Yeah, there were. They weren't any good, but they were. There were several scrapped concepts for final chapters, starting with Chapter 4. A very early concept would have seen Fenton as the Chapter 4 victim instead of Gyro, but I realized I kind of hated it, and it was way too out of character even for Ronpa and Friends, so it was canned. Fenton works best as a survivor, not as a victim or killer, and killing him off would just feel like a repeat of Darkwing. After that, I left Chapter 4 in a limbo until I went to start it after Chapter 3 and realized I had left nothing in that section other than a text saying, "Figure it out." The biggest change was really with Oswald. I was never 100% sure what his fate would be, but in early concepts, the option of just being a traditional murder victim was never really brought up. In scrapped concepts, he would have either survived and rebuilt with Mickey, or he would have been the fifth killer. In the killer scenario, Oswald would have accidentally killed Gyro, to the point where he wasn't even aware he had done the crime. When they vote for Donald as the killer, Oswald becomes the winner of the game and witnesses the other's executions, only to be murdered by the mastermind. The last scene of the execution would have been Oswald getting killed, and then his murder being the subject of the 6th trial. The issue is that was bad, and I had no idea how to make it so Oswald could kill Gyro without knowing it. I also just didn't like the idea in general. With the gap in Chapter 4, I moved Gyro's death up and rewrote Chapter 5.
What's the hardest part about making executions and videos?
Okay, so this is my own fault, and no one else has this problem. But I never decide what music I want to use until after everything else is done. Like, I'll finish the animations for the entire execution or video, and then after that, I'll add in vocals or music. The exception to this is when a character is talking on screen. I actually do try to lip sync, but it doesn't go well because I am not an animator, despite popular belief. This most recent execution had the exact same issue where I just didn't learn any of the music or listen to it before I made it, and then had to scramble to figure out what song could fit. And I'm never going to learn from my mistakes. This is going to be how it goes until the end of time. I did this with another animation I did recently. That's just how I live my life.
How do you decide on talents, and who gives them out?
So, ultimates are chosen on what their thesis statement as a character is. The ultimates are meant to be given to them by, like, the creators, like, you know, the animators, the writers, the actual people who make the series. And the characters just kind of fall in line with that and don't really question where it comes from. This is why someone who doesn't exist within a storyline like Yen Sid or the Wastelanders don't have ultimates. It's because they don't need them. There's no story to tell with them.
Did you plan on making Rerun from the beginning, or did you make it due to RNF's popularity?
While I didn't plan on it from the start, I wouldn't say it was made because of popularity. Once I realized how much I enjoyed writing Romp and Friends, I knew I wanted to make a sequel based on it, especially based on Killing Harmony. I jumped around with a lot of different characters in mind, first starting with Roxanne as the main character in Romp and Friends 2, before deciding to switch to Felicity. I try not to let any form of popularity influence my actions, and honestly don't view myself as very popular. I'm a larger Insta-Rompa, it's true, but I don't think I'm popular. Anything I make for Romp and Friends is because I'm enjoying it, and not because other people want me to make it.
How do you make slides?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most tedious process of Romp and Friends. First off, I use Clip Studio Paint. This is a controversial program to use. A lot of other people tend to use Procreate or Google Slides, but this is just the way I've always done it. I have .csp projects for each section of the chapter: Daily Life, Deadly Life, Trial, Hope Intermissions, and Truth Intermissions. These projects contain every sprite, text box, background, really just anything I need to make a slide. The tedious part is the auto actions. Auto actions are a function in CSP which allow you to record your button clicks and file adjustments and then replay them back to you. One of my personal favorites is this one that does a drop shadow action. It will automatically duplicate your image, color it black, move it downwards and to the right, blur it, and lower its opacity. I don't know how to pronounce that word. For Romp and Friends, I have an auto action for every single character. Clicking their button brings up their sprites and text box. From there, I use the layer finder, move directly to their sprites, pick the one I want to use, and add in the text. I also have auto actions for spoken text and thought out text. The reason it's annoying is it takes a lot to set up the auto actions. I have to start recording the action, then open and close visibility on every layer. This way, when you press the button, everything goes invisible. From there, I duplicate this guideline auto action, then make it so only sprites that would appear are the character that I want that auto action to be associated with. From there, I duplicate this auto action and make it so the only sprites that would appear are the character in question. With 20 characters to go through, this takes a long time, and often auto actions won't save properly, so I'll have to then go and remake them. After that, though, everything goes by really quickly. I just add the text I need for my script and use a hotkey I implemented on my program to save anything visible as a flat ping file. I then save them in the folder for the section under the numbers the slide would fall into, and I keep them in multiples of 200. And that's how I make slides. The time it takes to make the auto actions pays off in how I can make 20 slides in a minute. Seriously, I timed it.
How do you make sprites?
I just ate 3 choco pies, and I think that threw off my groove significantly. So Ronpa and Friends 1 was just different poses of the same character with, a bunch of different expressions. But Ronpa and Friends 2 uses an approach I personally call puppet sprites. And I have no idea if anyone else uses this approach. This is just the way I make sprites quickly and easily. Each character has a file, and the character is then separated into different areas. In general, this tends to be like the right arms, the torso, the head, the left arms. Really, the biggest folder is the head folder, because it contains the mouths, the emotional add-ons like tears, and like movable pupils. What I'm saying is I make sprites like people make NFTs. And there's downsides to this method, of course. My sprites look stiff, I can acknowledge that. So I try to incorporate as many fluid motions as I can and hope their dialogue can supplement where my sprites lack. I have no idea if this method works for anything outside of cartoon characters, and the sprites I've made for humans have been in the standard poses with different expressions. The only RNF2 characters without this are Clarabelle, Felicity, and Toodles. Felicity was made during Chapter 3 of RNF1, with Toodles and Clarabelle following soon after. This method also caused some admittedly silly mix-ups, most famously being the two-hatted kit. Because RNF has such a huge roster, especially this season, making sprites this way just helps them get them out the door and simplifies them.
Will you ever write a fangin outside of RNF?
So when all is said and done with Ronpa and Friends, the answer to that is yeah. I will definitely be making more content, and I've always wanted to make content. When it comes to making another Ronpa, there is one that I really want to do, and I have actually been working on for a while. The issue is that it's kind of complicated, and I've been trying to figure out if it would be too much of a load along with Ronpa and Friends to make it. The answer I've kind of come up with is to make it a YouTube exclusive and really overly upload it once it's done, and not stress so much about it compared to Ronpa and Friends. So making it in a video would just be me chucking a full chapter at people and then leaving. As for other content, I do really want to make original content, and there is actually a series I've been working on for a little while now that I have been having a lot of fun with, and I think will be really entertaining to watch. I don't want to say a lot about it, because I don't want to set anything in stone yet. But I've had a good time making character designs for it, I've had a good time making scripts for it, and I think it'll be really enjoyable.
What do you wish you knew before you started?
So there's one rule I tell everyone who meets me that's wanting to make a fan game, and that is that you do not start any of your slides without your sprites made. You don't do it. You make the sprites first. And you know who you are. You know if you've done this. It doesn't go well. It never goes well. People always end up quitting because they don't have any sprites once a character gets introduced. It's always a good idea to just suck it up and make the sprites, especially because sitting down and making sprites can help you realize, do I actually want to make this series, or do I just want to draw a couple characters? People will not always like your content. They won't like your characters, your writing, your art, what have you, and that's fine. People aren't gonna like your stuff, just like how you don't like other people's stuff. Take the criticism where it's valid and move on. It's not the end of the world, and if you're not having fun, it's not worth it. Fan games are not a paid gig, it's a hobby at best. Don't force yourself to do things you don't want to do. Comparing your fan game to others is actually good. Hundreds of others have done the exact same motives that I have, and that's fine. I did Despair Disease. Do you know how many people have done Despair Disease? Anyone who has ever wanted to make a fan game ever, and that's because it's fun. But they've never done it the exact same way I've done it, and I've never done it the exact same way they've done it. It's just the same scenario with different characters, and it's interesting to see everyone's interpretations on them. So you can compare your fan game to others. I think that's a good idea. So when I started Ronpa and Friends, I had a very bubbly personality, and I talked all the time with readers, because I just wanted to come off as nice. It was only really talking to 5 or so people because I wasn't very big, so it didn't really hurt me that much, so I was willing to pretend to be really bubbly and cheerful at that time. Then that number went from 5 to 500 to 1000, and it kept going up, and the persona started to crack and get tiring. People started sending threats to me, and it was meant to be a joke, the kind of thing you would say to a friend, but I didn't know these guys, and I really hated it. At that point, though, I was so caught up in this bubbly, cheerful persona that I didn't know how to put my foot down. Eventually, this led to me shutting down completely, and when I came back, I was just tired of it. I think I am friendly to a certain degree, but I don't like being a pushover. And I think I come off as kind of mean because I tell people when I have my boundaries up. And I think every single person who has a platform online should be allowed to express their boundaries. I'm really not super bubbly and cheery, and I've kind of grown to dislike the sprites I used to make for myself back in the day because they're reminiscent of that fakeness. And this sounds like a bad thing, like I've become some bitter jerk because of all of you people. But really it was my own undoing by pretending not to be me. If your series takes off, don't panic. Take a deep breath and think about how close up you want to be with people. For me, the best place is on the sidelines, but for you it might not be the same.
What's some behind the scenes or bonus content you can share with us?
So there's a couple. One that I am actually going to post. I haven't decided if I'm posting it on the bonus account or on my main account or somewhere else. I'm probably putting it on the bonus account. Was a unused free time event for Dale. For those of you who don't know, back in the day, all characters had a pre-existing free time event. And I kind of scrapped some of them, but one that actually almost made it to the light of day was Dale's. This was going to be in Chapter 4. The actual free time event that he did have was going to be this free time event. Otherwise, there's some concept art. I considered going over all of the concept art, and then I decided I really didn't want to because there's a lot, and I don't have the time. What I'm instead gonna do is I'm gonna put them on the Google Drive and you can go take a look for yourself. I know that's kind of a letdown, but I kind of didn't want to sit here like, oh, here's the reason I did Clarabelle's design like this. Because I just didn't want to do that. That's just kind of boring. There's also going to be some other things. I posted on Twitter about how I had a Christmas special that I scrapped, and that is in fact true. I did scrap a Christmas special, so I'll probably upload a couple of assets I made for that. I just didn't have time to finish it. Otherwise, there isn't a lot of unused content that I have to share with everyone.
What's the reason for the casts you have? And, if you could do a third season, who would you want in?
So the reason I chose the characters of the first cast was because I felt like they were kind of like the Disney starter pack. Like, if you were into Mickey and Friends, you knew these characters. And I felt like they all had really good chemistry and would work as good parallels to Danganronpa 1. And leading into that parallel and into that design aspect for Ronpa and Friends 2, I chose the characters based on whether or not they were good fits in comparison to other cast members, or if they were like Julius and were meant to be parallels with canonical Danganronpa characters. So if I ever did a third series, which I am not confirming nor denying whether or not Ronpa and Friends 3 is actually going to happen, I would probably put in Bonkers. I just feel like he's the natural progression compared to the other protagonists. I just feel like he's just exactly what you would expect from a protagonist, you know, if I made a third season. I've tried to parallel most of the protagonists from Danganronpa 1 with my protagonist. For instance, Mickey is more cheerful and hopeful like Naegi is, compared to Hajime and Felicity both being more down-to-earth and judgmental. So I would really need to parody either Shuichi or Kaede, and I think it's just a coincidence that Bonkers is someone who has worked with detectives, and he's a good parallel to Shuichi. That's all I can say.
What's your least favorite Disney song?
Let It Go, and it's not just because it was overplayed. The lyrics are just bad. If you like Let It Go, you're just a theater kid, and I don't know what to tell you, but I have no respect for you if you're a theater kid. Saying that is like swinging a bat in a hornet's nest, considering I'm around Disney fans. I'm not a theater kid. I need to defend myself. I've already been framed as a homestuck. I should be made fun of for playing League of Legends and nothing else.
Who do you main in League?
Bot lane, I main Ezreal. Only. Just him. Support, I main Yumi. And I don't play anything else. Those are the only things I play. It's like all you need from League of Legends is those 2 champions, and then you're golden. Unless you want to sell your soul to the devil and play Lux, but this has nothing to do with anything. Why are we talking about this?
What programs do you use?
So the programs that I use to make Romp and Friends tends to be Clip Studio Paint, which is the big one. That's what I do all my illustrations on. After Effects. And Filmora. And in fact, there is someone in my comments who has always been saying this was made on Filmora every time I post a video, and I don't know what they want from me, and I'm scared. Like, I don't have a watermark on there. How do you know? How do you know?
Do you write a script?
Okay, so here's my really stupid secret. Sometimes I have a script, and sometimes I'm just winging it. And you can tell when I'm winging it because I use the exact same phrases over and over again because I'm an idiot. But honestly, I get way too excited and forget to write scripts, and then I'm like, oh crap, I have nothing written for this. So then I end up panicking and rewriting dialogue that I probably already written and just forgot to label the Google Doc of. If I'm really feeling a segment or a short or like a scene, I will script out the whole thing. Because it's fun. It is fun to really write scripts. But for some things, I just don't have the patience or the time. And other times you think of a better plot after you've written the script, so you go in to rewrite it, and then it just becomes this whole ordeal.
Is there a big twist for Season 2?
If they've been paying attention, no. I will say I did something really stupid that you're gonna have to figure out eventually. Otherwise, yeah, you're gonna be fine.
Will you ever live stream drawings?
Oh my god, I forgot I did those. Maybe, yeah, I could. I don't have anything against it. It honestly depends on if I'm working that day, because I kind of can't answer questions while at work. I have a full-time job, shockingly.
Are all the characters dead in Season 2? What's going on?
Yes and no. Going into that will take a while. Just trust me on this, okay?
What goes through your head while working on RNF?
Complete white noise. I don't think of anything while I make this thing. I am completely blank-eyed. Nothing is computing with me. I am just listening to non-stop video essays in the background and just drawing. Nothing is getting through to me. I am just completely a blank slate.
Do you have any scrap deaths for S2?
I do have some scrapped things for Scrooge. Nothing that I really wrote down so I can consider it officially scrapped, but I do wish I spent a little bit more time with him. In the original plotline, Scrooge was actually the murderer, not the victim, but I changed that up because I kind of felt like killing him off early and having him be a murder victim would serve the plot better. So yeah, if I had to pick a character to spend more time with, in Romp and Friends 2 at least, it would be Scrooge.
What's your favorite chapter in each season?
So, in terms of Romp and Friends 1, my favorite case is Chapter 4. I really like Dale's Spiral. I really think I played well with the other chapters, and I think it was just a really fun trial. It was fun for me to make, and it was fun for me to see you guys react to. As for rerun, I'm really looking forward to Chapter 5 because it's when things start really coming together and it has a really fun murder mystery.
Why have Gadget and Max been sidelined?
I know people want to see more of Gadget and Max. Like, I'm aware of that. And I'm going to give you more. Why do I sound like a mother scolding her children? I'm gonna give you more. You just gotta be patient. Like I said, Rerun is kind of a weird sequel, and that I don't do things all the exact same way I did it in season 1. So there's some changes. Gadget and Max have more relevance, and there's a reason they've been keeping to themselves.
Was Daisy's execution scrapped? I heard there was an original concept for it.
Okay, yeah, so Daisy's execution is a scrapped thing. Wow, I had way more scrapped contents than I thought. Daisy's execution was originally going to be her opening a bunch of presents, and one of them had a bomb in it. It was bad. I really didn't like it, and I felt like the thorns was more symbolic and entertaining and tied in with the title much better. And also I just really hated animating the other one, and the other one I got, like the one we went with, I got done in a day. Yeah, sometimes you just gotta go for the easy route, and that's really what I just wanted to do with hers.
Why is Mickey the main character when Donald is the ultimate hope?
Because at the end of the day, Mickey is not the most important Mickey and Friends character. You're gonna tell me that Donald is less important than Mickey? You're gonna tell me that Donald is less important than Mickey? Let's be honest with ourselves. Donald is that one weirdo from Kingdom Hearts. Mickey's just some guy. Donald fights people on the regular. Mickey is just some guy. Because ultimately, Donald doesn't quite fit with the Naegi character, but Mickey does. At the same time, Mickey doesn't really sound like the ultimate hope, but Donald does.
Is Season 2 a sequel or a prequel?
One thing I can say about Ronpa and Friends Rerun is that it is set in the same universe as Ronpa and Friends 1, and it is a sequel, not a prequel. That's something a lot of people got confused about. It's a sequel.
Who would you cast for a live-action RNF?
Chris Pratt. As everyone. All of them. Just him. Charlie Day can be there too.
Will there be any romances in Season 2?
This might be because Ronpa and Friends is a drama, and it might be because I really like to write romance, but there's pretty much always going to be a romance in anything I write. I just like romances. So the answer to that is yes, there is going to be romance, especially because I've already heavily hinted at one between Magica and Gladstone, and there's going to be a couple more coming up. I'd say the only ones who are free from my romance writing are most of the kids. I just have a hard time thinking of the triplets in a romantic relationship, and I don't want to write Julius in a romantic relationship flat out. Max's storyline in like most of his movies circles around romance or something. If that's what you want to call Bradley Uppercrust was.
Why did you put Mark in this? Is it cause he was a meme?
I mean, why did I put Mortimer in the first one? They're good villains. I don't like them as people, but they're really good at being antagonists, and being someone that at the very least I can make the butt of a joke. I will say that I do plan on giving more to Mark than I did with Mortimer, but that's a little ways away.
How are you so handsome?
I run on a all-bred diet all the time, and that is the reason for my gorgeous skin complexion and my beautiful plumage.
Will there be another season of Ronpa and Friends?
So this is the question I get more than probably anything ever, is whether or not there is going to be a third season. The fact of the matter is I just started season 2, so really I do think it's too early to tell whether or not I even have it in me to do a third season. I have things I do aside from Ronpa and Friends, and ultimately I do want to move on from Ronpa and Friends, so a third season just might not be in the books. And right now, with the state of everything, I mean, I'm 2 years in, I still haven't even finished the second season. It's too early for me to announce a third season. Okay, so hear me out. Yeah, there's a third season. I feel like this was just gonna happen. Ronpa and Friends, like I said so many times before, is based on Danganronpa, so naturally there's gonna be Danganronpa influences in the same trilogy that Danganronpa has. So this is my V3. It's called Danganronpa Plus. Bonkers is in fact in it. He is the only confirmed character right now. If you recognize anything in that trailer, you can go ahead and speculate, but otherwise keep your mouth shut. With the current state of everything, I wouldn't bank on it happening for a while, maybe even well over a year. I just don't want to run 2 fan games at once, and it really would not make any sense for there to be a third season going on at the exact same time as the sequel. So yes, season 3 is happening in the far off future. And I've gotten a couple bits of concept art in it, but that's really only when I want to. And the only thing I really have solidified is a cast list. And I'm not going to share that cast list yet. You're gonna just have to wait. I am admittedly excited about this, but it's, like I said, far off in the future. I know I hyped this video up a lot, and it's not a whole lot. It is basically just me yapping at a microphone for 20 minutes and then showing you a trailer. But this is where it left off. Thank you guys for sticking around this long, both with the video and with Ronpa and Friends. I know it's kind of been a long time, and I've kind of done a lot of weird things with this, but still, thank you. I want to shout out a couple of people before I wrap this up. Thank you to Sax, my sister and proofreader, who got me framed as a Homestuck. I always appreciate it when you blow out your vocal cords reading my scripts because you tried to match Chip and Dale's pitch. Thank you to Tofu, my partner in crime and also romance. Sorry for almost forgetting our anniversary. Thank you to my friends who know nothing about Disney nor Danganronpa but will listen to my bullshit. This includes Fran and Knight and my D&D gang. Thank you to Adult Swim, my group of Ronpa friends who are always supportive of me and my work and say things like this. I'm not gonna ask about this. Thank you to Blaze for reacting to the Ronpa and Friends series and giving me a way to enjoy the series with my fans without being there, you know? And lastly, thank you to you guys for sticking around this long. This has been Lou, or Empire, or Spade, I don't really care which one, signing off. Also, I want to say really quick that I had to rewatch all of Bonkers for season 3, and, yeah, that should be listed as a form of torture. That show was rough. Jim Cummings was just, like, carrying that show on his shoulders, like an atlas on the earth, waiting for it all to crush down on him.